Well, would you look at that? Residential building construction jobs finally went negative year over year. And you might be saying, Kenny, that's not accurate, because I'm looking at the latest monthly numbers and it's still positive year over year. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the non-sampled lagged version of that data, right? A straight count of jobs. That data is available through December of 2024. And what we are seeing now is these more timely monthly sampled estimates are not only getting revised down, but they just appear to be overstated in general. Okay, so all that has really happened is we have kicked the can 2 years down the road, where residential building construction went outright negative year over year, like in the summer of 2023. That was conveniently around the time when BTFP was rolled out. And home prices dipped down into negative territory too, and suddenly we're off to the races again. And so, look, there are many different ways that you could have arrived at this conclusion, whether you were looking at the relevant retail sales categories or construction spending, even the other employment categories in residential construction, because the bulk of that is actually contractors, like foundation and finishing contractors. Even in the monthly data series we got yesterday, I mean, they are in outright contraction year over year. So if that's the case, and those numbers are likely overstated, then can you imagine kind of where we go from here? And on top of that, if you just looked at the household survey, right, along with all this information, you wouldn't realize something is clearly not adding up. And people will come up with some sort of excuse, like, not in my market, or we don't build enough, which is just complete nonsense. Those people are just terrible at math, and they don't really understand the difference between a balance or activity. So permitting, for example, in a given year, that represents, we'll call it anywhere between 1 or 2% of the entire housing stock in the United States. And they want you to look at that tiny little sliver of the pie and say, oh, that's going to tell me everything I need to know. That's insane. Okay, that's not real math. And if you believe that, then it's time to go back to the drawing board, right? Because again, homes accumulate in a market, kind of like the balance of AR. Think of it that way. Or permitting would be like a P&L. That's activity that changes the balance in the housing stock. Housing units per capita in most markets is at or near all-time highs. We're at peak unaffordability pretty much everywhere. Wages are not catching up, as reflected in something like the ACS data, whether it's rents to incomes or DTIs. Go look at HMDA, I don't care. Even something like the single family Fannie Mae data looks just not good. Or just because maybe, inventory for sale is low in your market does not mean that there's a housing shortage either, because many of those markets are also structurally oversupplied. There's just some local dynamics like mobility and investor activity and this sort of cost of living arbitrage. It's all sort of creating bottlenecks along the way. Guys, we already have dual income households too. I don't get it. What are we doing? And there, of course, when I say all this, somebody will figure out a way to take it personally, but just understand that your frustration is misplaced ultimately. And you're not mad at me, you're actually just kind of mad at math. And there's not a single market in the United States that is somehow immune from this. People want to think that they're special. Okay. Well, you folks really now in the Midwest and the Northeast holding out, you're not. And I don't mean that in any sort of condescending way. I just mean that from the standpoint of we're just all a cog in the system. So yeah, it's not great. We have too many homes. They're very unaffordable. Already got dual income households. I don't make the rules.